I decided to tackle this rocker on the driver's side before I try to get it inspected, just because it really needs to be done. I don't know if there would be issues or not, because I don't have any holes that go through to the cab, and it was covered with that plastic molding, so it wasn't exposed. But either way, I'm gonna do it now. And I decided to go with the 2x6 square tubing because I priced that out compared to the universal rocker that is on this side, put on by the previous owner. And the tubing was $66 for both of those 6-foot lengths, which is 1/8 inch wall. I don't need anything stronger than that because I'm not rock crawling with it or anything. But anyway, and the rocker, universal rocker, was like 60 bucks. This lower trim piece was pop riveted on, and you could see there's a bunch of holes that held this trim piece to this trim piece. But anyway, it was also pop riveted into this piece of metal that someone had snuck up here in between what was left of the fender and this upper molding piece. And I think I'm just gonna zip this off here just to see what's going on under there. We can get a better idea what we're left with here. I took a screwdriver and I chipped out a big huge blob of expanding foam someone mistakenly thought they were fixing the Jeep with, and there's not a lot left to this support here. Oh, one thing I want to point out is you see this hole right here, and there's no other hole anywhere here. Well, you can't really see. No holes. No other holes. There's nowhere for all that crap to go. So it just sits up in here. Makes a big mud cake. Nowhere for it to drain. Maybe that's why it rotted out. Come over to look at the passenger side, and remember I didn't put this rocker on. I just kind of finished it off. So I'm not really sure how much of it is left underneath where he's got this riveted on. It looks like there's enough to do the same thing as what I'm planning on doing on the other side. So here's all the mud and expanding foam that was up inside that rocker. I'm not sure what was the purpose of putting all that foam up in there, and that's probably going to be cut off, and probably just cut off. If I get the fender and this plate that was riveted on, I've taken off, and believe it or not, I was able to get the molding off with the clip intact. I've snapped a blue chalk line where I think I want to make my cut. I'm pretty sure that's going to work out the way I want it to, but like I said earlier, I've seen people make the cut up further, so I guess I'll just run with that. I cut this off as straight as I could. I think it's pretty good. I just did it by hand with the angle grinder, so it's not going to be perfect, but it doesn't have to be. And looking at this thing here, the bottom of the support definitely was tack welded to the bottom of the rocker, but I mean, how much support did the rocker panel really give it? Just a little piece of sheet metal. I think more of the strength comes from as it comes through this body line up here. The same can be said about this A-pillar support here. It's all gone. I don't know how it connected to anything. I don't know if it spot welded to the rocker also or not, but it certainly isn't really doing much there, dangling. I guess if there ever was like a rollover situation, the top of this would, you know, be compressed down right onto this, which will be welded, you know, the entire length of this floor pan. Also, if this was ever hit from the side, this would add a tremendous amount of stiffness to the body as compared to, well, what is stock and what's left of what was stock. Okay, this is night number 2 of this project, and I started out by taking a straight edge and kind of eyeballing from the cut lip down to where I think the line should be to cut that B-pillar brace off. Please don't take this as a how-to video. This is just my trial and error, and however it works out, it works out. Everything's been trimmed nice and flush, and right here behind the B-pillar support there was the bolt that sticks through that mounts the seat belt. And I've seen some people, they cut this bolt right here where the excess threads are. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to notch out of my tube a little further just so I can clear all this, because I just don't want to deal with cutting that. These 2x6 pieces were cut at 6 feet, and they're not quite long enough to come out to the end of my fender well in the front while it's flushed up with the fender well in the back. And well, usually if you're gonna go to something like a 2x6 rocker, then you probably usually already have had your fender well trimmed for bigger tires. And of course also the bottom half of the fender needs to be trimmed. I've made my notch in the 2x6 tubing and welded in a patch, and now I'm being held up by these screws that are coming through the side of the body, and they're these two which hold on the fuel door popper. The rest of them hold on pieces of trim. Went in the back and I had undone these two, and the trim is still retained pretty well. It's not going anywhere. After some consideration, I've just decided that I'm going to cut these bolts off flush with the inside of this rocker here, and I probably will have to take this interior apart to do some welding. I think the floor pan is looking like it might be kind of crispy up there, so when that's all out, I will drill holes from the inside through the back of the 2x6 tubing when it's in place, and I can just tap from the inside for new hardware. For the first time, I can really step back and get an idea of how this is gonna go together. Marked where I have to trim off the excess on the old rocker, the inners. It does kind of look a little weird just ending here, but oh well. I pulled this thing outside and I got some sandblasting done, and all the surfaces that are going to be covered by the piece of 2x6 tubing are nice and clean. I'm going to shoot some paint on them. I also took the fender off so I could kind of investigate this area right here a little better and figure out how I'm going to tie that in with the rocker. I don't want to leave it opened like that. And this hole in the floorboard right next to the rocker. I'll get that squared away, I think, before I put the rocker on. But I was also able to chase the rust up into the wheel well here, and I knew this big giant gaping hole was here, and it goes through the wheel well and it goes through the firewall right into the cab, so that's going to be a major headache. But let's just worry about the rocker for now, shall we?